Hi, everyone. Dan Rothert, Top Student Athlete Recruiting. We'll start here in another minute or so. I'll give a few people an extra minute to jump on. So just hold tight for a minute and we'll get started. All right. Thanks for joining me tonight. Again, Dan Rothert, Top Student Athlete Recruiting. This is a webinar format. I just want to jump into that real quick. So you cannot talk. I can't hear you talk or anything like that. You're muted on your end. If there is a question, feel free to type it in the chat or the Q&A. I will answer questions um, as we go or at the end. I'll definitely, try to cover a lot of things in the college soccer recruiting game. But thanks for joining me tonight. I'm a partner with Illinois High School Soccer Coaches Association. I was a longtime soccer coach at Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa. I recruited a ton of Illinois players. Um, and I partner with Illinois High School Soccer Coaches Association as their recruiting expert, help them run senior classics for boys and girls. And so definitely have a great relationship with Illinois and players over there. Like I said, I live in Dubuque, Iowa, which is 2 minutes from Illinois, so not too far away, and I'm in that area all the time. I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll get started here. All right. Again, I coached at most of my career at Loras College in Iowa. I coached men's and women's. Had a lot of success, won a lot of soccer games, won a lot of conference championships and titles, and competed for NCAA titles. And a big part of that was recruiting. The lifeblood of my programs was recruiting, and how well we were doing in that was going to assimilate into how well we were going to do on the field. So about 4 years ago, I transitioned into starting top student athlete recruiting, where I help players and their families connect to find right fit opportunities based on level of play, their academics, what they're looking to major in, their academic profile, financials, uh, social, all the different factors that might play into what you're looking for in a college. So every player is different. Um, so these are places I've landed players in the last, couple of years. Everywhere from top level Division I schools to junior colleges. To be honest, every level, all across the country, and you know, meeting their needs, meeting players' needs, and helping them and their families connect. Really, like helping open doors, but also getting through the stress of this process. It's pretty stressful. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of misleading things out there, in my opinion. I'm here to bring a lot of truths to the process, and like I said, probably the biggest benefit of working with me is I can help personally connect players with coaches and get them to the front of the line. Sometimes players don't hear anything from coaches. I can make a phone call and get them to get a look. Um, I truly think this is not a 4 year decision, but a 40 year decision, right? It should be the best 4 years of your life. Maybe, college should be that. Get everything out of college you desire and more. The more engaged you are as a student, the more opportunities you will have. Graduate and be on the career path you desire, and find a college and soccer program that will help maximize your potential as both a student and an athlete. And I'll say it here, I think you need to go where you're loved, right? I think a lot of players try to force their way on rosters at schools that might be good fits at schools, but maybe the soccer program isn't interested in that player, or they don't need their position, or they just have a full roster for the time being. A lot of players try to force their way on those rosters, and they end up not having great experiences because they end up being at the end of the bench or not playing, and not getting the the joys of the game that they're used to having. And if they're going to a place that really wants them, they might have a better experience. So I'm going to talk about the myths and mistakes of college soccer recruiting. And one myth is scholarships, right? Scholarships in soccer are usually partial. A full ride is very, very rare. So in my opinion, you should not be saying I need an athletic scholarship. You should be saying trying to find the best value on college for you at a school that meets your needs and meets your priorities, and is a place you can play at. I've seen kids I work with get much better offers at Division III schools that don't offer soccer scholarships than they do at Division I schools, where they might get a very, very partial scholarship or none at all. And because soccer scholarships are usually partial, grades are really important, and can result in more money for college. So, whether no matter what year you are on this webinar tonight, grades, grades, grades. I can't talk about it enough. It's a crucial part of college, and because soccer scholarships are partial, that is a big deal. So we're going to talk about men's and women's soccer. I know we have both on here. This is the start of the spring season for both club for boys and high school for girls in Illinois. But we'll start with boys. Division I has 200 schools. There are 9.9 scholarships at a school that has max scholarships. Now, a school doesn't have to give out 9.9. They can decide how many they want to give out. There are schools I know that have 1 or 2 scholarships for the whole team. Let's say on average, a team has about 30 players on a roster. If we just do the math, 30 divided by 9.9, it's about a third scholarship per player. If they were fully funded, they call it fully funded. So, that's not a ton of money in the mix of it, but some schools can stack scholarships, so stack academic and soccer. So what I mean by that is, okay, maybe you get a third scholarship for academics and another third for soccer. Now you're talking, 2/3 off. Maybe it's 50% off for academics and, a third for soccer. Now, it doesn't mean just a third. They could give one player a full ride. If they have 9.9 scholarships, they could decide that we're going to give this one player a full ride scholarship. That means 8.9 for the other 29 players on the roster if they have 30. And roster sizes vary. Some schools have roster sizes and limits at like 25, 26. That's all they can carry. Some have roster sizes in upwards of 40 or 50 players. And at some other divisions, smaller divisions, they might have 60, 70, 80, I've seen. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So anyhow, soccer scholarships, are usually partial. And most players, we'll talk about what they're paying, but most players I've seen, even at Division I, are still paying a decent amount of money, and some are paying more than they would at Division III schools. Division II has 200 teams, 9 scholarships is the max. Division III has 400 teams. It's the biggest division. And they don't have athletic scholarships, but sometimes they can give even more money on academics. Sometimes they start at a lower price because they're a state school. There's a lot of different reasons of why a Division III might be less expensive than a Division I to go play at. NAIA is a different division overall. It's called National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. In Illinois, there's St. Xavier and is one that I think of off the top. Governor State. There's quite a few. Olivet Nazarene. Those are NAIA schools. There's about 200 of those too. They can give up to 12 scholarships potentially. So some of those NAIA schools could have 12 scholarships, and they even have more than even Division I schools. A lot of times they use them to get international players and things like that, but not all. And then there's junior colleges, NJCAA. They can be great opportunities for people trying to find the right fit. Maybe they want to not getting recruited really heavily right off the bat. And there's 200 or so junior colleges around the country. A Division One junior college can give 18 scholarships if they're fully funded. So that's quite a bit. There's Division Two junior colleges that give less scholarships than that, and then there's Division Three junior colleges that don't give any. All in all, though, there's 1,400 schools playing college soccer on the men's side. The women have a few more schools playing, a little over 1,500. Most of it's at Division One is the difference. There's 323 Division One women's teams. They can give 14 scholarships. So if the roster size is 30, it's about a half scholarship per player if you did the average, but that's not always the case. Some will give you more, some will give you less, depending on how good you are and how good the coach thinks you are. A lot of times in scholarshiping too, they're going to give you a lower scholarship as you enter as a freshman, and then if you prove your worth, they might give you more as a sophomore, junior, and so on as upperclassmen. It happens a lot. A lot of times they bring in freshmen on no scholarship money or very, very little, and then you have your chance to earn it as a sophomore because you had a great freshman year or you proved your worth. Division Two has 9.9 scholarships on the women's side. And then there's junior college and AIA and stuff as well. So I want everybody to know college soccer is the enrollment business, right? It's a business. And don't mistake NCAA Division One soccer for football or basketball. Football and basketball give full rides, right? So a basketball team, every player on the roster is getting a full ride scholarship. They give 14 full ride scholarships in Division One. They have to. If you're going to have a Division One basketball team, you have to give 14 full rides. That's the rule. Football, 85. All right, they give 85 full rides. Women's volleyball, also full ride sport. Soccer is not, unfortunately. We were kind of late to the party is kind of what happened. And, soccer and other sports like out there, Olympic sports, as they call them, may not be revenue sports and bringing in a ton of money to the school. And so they're not getting the scholarship perks. Colleges need students to make money. All right. They can't give a full ride to everybody and stay in business. So they need to make a certain amount of money per student. All right. Most colleges want to make 15 to 25,000 per student per year. All right. I worked in this game, all right, for my whole life. Everybody that came to different schools have a number that they want to put on average. Each person that attends their school is paying X, and that includes the scholarship people. So even at Division One, I've been doing this for 4 years as a agent slash advisor. I haven't seen a player get a full ride. I've seen players get up to about 85%. That's probably about the biggest I've seen. Really good, but I haven't seen them get a full rides yet. So there's different trends in college soccer recruiting. Let's talk about men's soccer recruiting trends. It's changed on a dime. It's changed a lot in the last year, to be totally honest with you. The last 3 or 4 years, especially with COVID, but the last year has been really, really, the changes have occurred really fast. Colleges are seeking older, more experienced players through the transfer portal. You all have probably heard about the transfer portal in football and basketball. The same thing's happening in soccer. So, the soccer transfer portal is out there and, it's harder to get spots. Coaches are looking at, hey, can I get a player that's going to make me better right away? Can I find a player from a Division Two team that was the leading scorer in the country? And we're starting to see transfers, kind of take a bigger market share of the recruiting and maybe less incoming freshmen. It's harder, and we see players that want to level up. They want to go from Division Two to Division One or Division Three to Division One or move up from junior college. They call that leveling up. And they take their risk and they jump in the portal and they had a good freshman or sophomore year. But there's a difference. There's a lot of international players out there that don't come over till they're 20, and then they transfer when they're 22, 23, and there's a big difference between an 18-year-old and a 22, 23-year-old. And to be honest, coaches get paid to win. and they lose their job if they don't win. And so we're starting to see, coaches don't have time to really develop players anymore, especially at schools with big time football. And I say that because of this Title IX thing, and you know, where they have to have equal opportunities for men and women. Well, football gobbles up tons of scholarship money, and so maybe at a football school, they might only be allowed to have 25 players on the roster, and they just don't have time to bring in a player to develop them. They want to bring in players who can play right away. So I think you'll see a question in the room kind of about this, and it's true. It's getting harder and harder, and the international market is growing. Coaches are going internationally a lot, even at Division II and Division III. They're looking for international players who might come over at age 20, and their hopes and dreams of being a pro have ended, and now they're going to use their skill because they have a really good level to come over here and get a college education. And then there's gap year programs. We're starting to see a lot of coaches, even at the Division I level, encourage gap years. What I mean by gap years, we'll talk about that in a minute. A program where you take a break for a year, you go train, you get better at soccer. You might, increase your chances when you're done with that because now you're a year older, a year or two older. You're closer to that 24-year-old, super senior transfer international player, and it's a more level playing field. But it's still happening. It's just a little bit harder. I placed a lot of players at all levels this year, including Division I. But it's just a little more challenging, and you have to maybe have some more advocates, and coaches maybe aren't and looking in as many places. It also has changed the timeline a little bit on the men's side. If Division I or Division II recruiting happens, it's happening after the transfer portal closes. Those players this year that I placed at Division I, except for two of them, the other 6 or 7 ended up. It was after end of December, so it was January when they started getting interest from Division Is because the musical chairs happened. The openings happened because players left programs and transferred somewhere else, and then they had openings and they were looking for players. And so it was really late, winter of senior year when they were starting to get Division I opportunities. And Division III schools are usually the first to reach out, so there's a lot of waiting and seeing if things might happen. So it's gone a little bit, even later in that. Another trend is huge rosters at tuition-driven schools. You're starting to see, there's a fight for kids, and schools want students to make, it's a business. They need to keep their doors open, their lights on, all that stuff. So they might ask coaches to carry 50, 60 players and have a JV team and those types of things. So that can happen as well. Junior college recruiting is up because again, getting more experienced players and gap year recruiting. Coaches are going to those gap year programs. We're going to talk about gap years in a second. So again, the transfer portal is causing musical chairs, right? It's players are leaving one school, going to another. It's opening up other opportunities and late changes in recruiting. As of today, there are 2,500 men and 1,900 women still in the transfer portal. Not all of them are going to land, but there are quite a few kids looking to make a change, and so that makes it harder to recruit. NIL, it was one of the questions. I don't know that NIL is a really big thing in soccer, maybe in other sports, but soccer players, maybe at the top schools, Clemson, Indiana's, are getting some NIL money, but in reality, I would say it doesn't really happen. So it's not like football and basketball where they're on TV and stuff like that. Gap year programs, we'll talk about those after we talk about women's trends. Women's soccer recruiting trends, kind of the same thing in some ways. I would say it's not as crazy on the older international players. There's still early recruiting done. Junior year is really important. It's still way earlier than the men's side. However, the musical chairs, now with the transfer portal, we're seeing openings later. We're seeing openings in senior year, winter, just like the boys. And I had 3 or 4 players land at Division I and Division II schools in the last couple of weeks on the women's side. and those types of things are happening. There's also bigger rosters. That's a big trend, right? So huge rosters at all levels, even Division One, because they can, go up against football on the women's side and in the Title IX thing and having equal numbers. So we're seeing women's rosters even at Division One with 40 players, maybe 45. And so it's a little bit harder to maybe get on the field, or maybe you're promised a spot, but getting on the field is even that much harder because you're up with 40 or so players. And then there's the transfer portal and leveling up. There's a lot of people transferring. There's movement, those types of things. And international players is still a thing. It's but it's not nearly as big of an impact as it is on the boys' side. Um, One other thing, there's another trend that's happening is like Division One men's soccer. They're thinking about changing the substitution rules, so no reentry, which would mean you can't, once you're done for the game, you get taken out. You don't get to go back in. They pull that off, which might happen. There's going to be less players playing in a game. You might have a roster of 30, but only you know currently it's about 16 players play in a game as the average. That might drop down to 14 if this rule comes through. So harder to get on the field. Are you actually playing? It's not going to affect Division Two or Division Three. I don't think it's even going to affect Division One women. But let's talk about gap year real quick. I just bring it up because there are some gap year programs that are really good out there. There's some others that I think are, kind of scams, right? And I wouldn't send people there. But a gap year is take a year or two off of your academic and professional pursuits to focus on soccer skills, gain experience necessary to get to the next level. Immerse yourself in soccer. Find a program where they train twice a day. They have a full-time strength and conditioning coaches, physios, things like that. They're helping players get to the next level. Can benefit players from both, physically and really get bigger, faster, stronger. And in terms of soccer, can be great for personal growth and maturity. I'm sending a few players that I know like to some programs I trust because this is what they want to do. Help a player be able to go to college and compete with older players because now you're going to be older when you're going to college. It might even help get professional opportunities, both abroad or in the U.S. There's some really good ones. A couple of them are listed here: eTour, Pre-College Development Academy, eTours in Spain. There's a couple of others abroad that are really good, and then the Pre-College Development Academy is here in the U.S. And they play like in the UPSL, which is like a semi-pro league and things like that. And they have a couple different locations. If you're interested in those, you want to know more, feel free to reach out to me. But I just want to throw that out there because it is a trend. It is happening. Myth number two, if you're good enough, coaches will find you. Most scholarship and most roster spots go to those that market themselves. Players who wait for coaches to come to them seldom get scholarship money or even end up playing in college, right? You got to go where you're loved. You got to put your name out there. You have to be persistent. You got to let coaches know when and where you're playing. Coaches go watch players at showcases and events they know about. And they have relationships with. That's the truth. They know this player reached out. They sent their video. We'll talk about video in a few minutes. They want to go watch you play live. That's the goal. Get a situation where a coach will come watch you play live and evaluate you and decide for them if you're the right player or not. That's one of the things I do. Right. I reach out to college coaches on a daily basis. I'm telling them about players I work with, and trying to get them looks. Sometimes they get recruited straight on video. Most of the time, it's opens the door, and the coach wants to see him play live, whether it's at a camp setting, or it's at a showcase, or at a high school game or club game, which that does still happen. But you got to do some work to make that happen. You got to let coaches know when and where you're playing. The third myth is, that Division III is not that good, right? Or NAIA or whatever. The division of the school is a philosophical choice each school makes. It's not, promotion and relegation like in the pros and in Europe and things like that. You don't get promoted or those types of things. The reality is there's a wide range of level in each division. There's the best of the best teams in the country are Division One right here on this cusp, right? But there's bad Division Ones over here. Most people think it looks like this: Division One, then Division Two, then Division Three. this isn't reality. There's a lot of messy middle, right? Yes, the best teams in the country are Division 1, but there's really good Division 3 teams that could beat Division 1 teams. There's Division 2 teams that could beat Division 1 teams. Last year the number 1 team in Division 2 played the number 1 team in Division 1, and the number 1 team in Division 2 men's soccer won that game. My teams at Loras, when I was coaching, we were Division 3. We'd go play Division 1s and win some games. Um, there is there's a messy middle. There's a lot of great players at all levels. Um, you know, find the right level for you. Don't get caught up in I got to go D1. I think that's a major mistake. I think you need to listen to all comers, listen to anybody who's shown interest in you, and see where that goes. And then more people may show interest, but the reality is you need to be listening to casting a wide net, listening to a wide variety of schools, and don't rule anybody out too early. So what are the mistakes in recruiting? This is a little video. It's kind of fun. Made it quite a while ago, so it's a little bit old.
Are you going to play in college?
Yeah, probably D1.
That's cool for who?
Either North Carolina or Duke. Maybe Wake Forest or State if I have to. I'm not sure yet.
Are those coaches at the game today?
I don't know. I haven't talked to them yet. I'm only a junior.
So how do you know you can play for them?
They all sent me letters asking me to come to their camp so they could get a better look at me, so they definitely want me.
That sounds stupid. They probably just want you to come to their camp.
Plus my coach said it's an NCAA that period and they can't recruit me until after July 1st prior to my senior year?
That's stupid too. Of course they can recruit you. I have friends who are sophomores and are committed to schools already.
I'm not worried about it. My dad's buddy said I can play D1 for sure.
You are a tool. Did you even send them video?
No, I don't have any. I think my coach was going to get some and sent to some schools randomly.
That's a pretty stupid idea. I heard they get a lot of tapes sent to them.
I'm not worried. I was all conference.
You are a tool. Don't you think most kids who want to play in college were all conference in high school? Do you have good grades?
I have a 2.5, and that's all I need to be eligible.
You are getting dumber the more I talk to you. What if you can't get into a school with that? Or what if the coach prefers athletes with better grades?
But I'm really good. My mom says so.
Your mom is stupid too. Don't you even want to look at D2 and D3 schools?
I heard they suck. I'm pretty sure I could play at any D2 school that I wanted to.
You suck. You know there are like 15,000 high schools and 1,000 colleges, so only the best players in the country can play D1. Have you ever been to a D2 or D3 game?
No, they suck.
You suck.
Obviously pretty sarcastic, but all the mistakes, right? Pretty funny. I still get a kick out of it. I watch it 100 times, right? But some of the mistakes, right? Target the wrong colleges. A lot of people overshoot in this. Everybody wants to be Division 1. Everybody wants to post that they're going to certain schools. I get it, right? But you got to be honest with yourself and don't target schools that aren't good fits athletically. All right. Everybody wants to be at the highest level. I totally understand. Go see college games. Go see if you can really play at that level, and don't just watch it and eat popcorn and enjoy the game. You really need to look at the game and write down some look at the players playing your position, and can you do what they're doing, and are you that level. Those are important things. Or ask somebody, find out from somebody. It's hard for your club coaches and high school coaches to tell you that, hey, this is a level of play we think you are. But if you're okay with honest opinions and some people will tell you that. That's what I do. One of the things I do is I'm going to tell you, I tell people this is the areas I think we should target. These are types of schools we should target. This is based on, levels of play. I go watch every player I work with play, and watch a ton of film and that type of stuff too. But find somebody that's a non-biased source, or the local college coach. Ask them. Maybe it's a school you don't want to go to. It's your those types of things. Academically, targeting schools that are above their academic rigor, people who are reaching out to schools they can't get into. And even if they can get into them, but barely get in, you might not get a lot of academic money, right? And so that might be a big stretch for you, especially the way soccer scholarships work. A lot of them are academic based. Financial targeted schools are going to be out of their price range. And then the experience, find schools that are the overall experience is what you're looking for. Are you looking for a winning team or just to be on a roster? I got a player that just played with on the national championship Division 3 team as a freshman, scored in the national semifinal. He had, Division 1 opportunities. But he has, those opportunities were at teams that aren't that good and lower level Division 1. And he's at the national championship Division 3 team. He's having a great experience. It's a perfect fit for him. And, we can't fault anybody for their decisions in that regard. Contact two fewest schools. Again, I talked about this a little bit. Used to be able to do when I was a kid, it was, have your dream school, your backup school, your safety school, and that was it, right? But that's for non-athletes. If you want to play in college, you need to go where you're recruited. Cast a wide net, diversify your options, have a lot of options. What do I mean by that? Different divisions. Reach out to schools from different divisions. Reach out to schools with different academic rigors. Maybe it's a super elite academic school. You're not going to get a lot of money there academically because everybody there is brilliant. But if you go one tier down, which is still really, really good, you might get tons of academic money and almost go for free. Prospects that contact coaches from a wide variety of levels have better results. And very often find their dream school is a place they never really even heard of before. So that's a big thing. Like I said before, go where you're wanted. You make your best fit. You do. Like when you get there, you make your best fit. Doesn't matter. I think too many people get caught up in the name and the name brand. Have a false sense of security. A lot of awards and accolades does not mean you'll get recruited. The kid in the video. I'm all conference, right? All conference, all state, that means something different everywhere. And actually, coaches really don't care, to be totally honest. They want to know if you can play for them. They want to see you play. Coaches decide if you're recruitable, nobody else. And I get it. Some people are like, oh, that player was all state. They were the best player in our area. I don't know why they're not Division 1. Well, Division 1's hard. It's really difficult. You're up against the world. I just sat in a coach's office the other day, a Division 1 coach, last week, and he told me he turned down the 2-time state player of the year in his state, who had won 2 state championships, and played for the best club in the state. And he basically was telling that kid he's probably going to need a gap year to even play for his program, which was a pretty low level Division 1. So the reality is it's hard some places. You can still find them, and that's what I do, is I help find those opportunities for people potentially if they can play at that level. Don't confuse a camp invitation for actual recruitment. Right, you're gonna get a ton of camp invites in this process. Come to our ID camp, come to this ID camp, that ID camp. You're gonna get seen. First off, don't believe the hype. I would be very cautious in that world. We're gonna talk about ID camps in a minute. You can get opportunities from ID camps, and I think if you're talking to a coach beforehand, great. If you're not talking to a coach before you go, it's going to be really, really hard to get an opportunity there. Maybe you get a camp invite and you're excited about it. Reach out to that coach and ask them, hey, coach, thanks for the invite. I'd love to chat with you on the phone or Zoom before I make the commitment to come to your camp. If they get back to you and you have a great half-hour phone call, that coach isn't spending a half hour on someone they're not interested in. All right. But if you get ghosted, I wouldn't go. Save the money. Coaches go to showcases, tournaments, combines with a plan. They go to watch certain players, right? People who are on their radar. So you got to get on their radar. This is all changing. Wait until it's too late. I said recruiting doesn't happen your senior year. Well, it doesn't start your senior year by any means, but I've had players I've worked with that actually senior years when we started. I've had players that I've started with a couple weeks ago, and they've already committed, and we found places for them. But it's not too late. But I would, as a female, I would be on it. Sophomore year, spring, really get ahead of it. Because your junior year, junior year is really when it happens. If you're a guy, junior into senior year, if not sophomore year is a good time to get on the radars. Just be followed. Let coaches know who you are and see if they'll come out and watch you play and stuff like that, just to get on the radar. Um, you know, the ability of your coaches helping, it varies. You can't expect them to help in this process. They're busy, but ask your coaches, how comfortable they are in helping you in this process, and if they will give you an honest assessment of the levels of play too. Um, ID camps and showcases. We'll talk about that briefly. Are they worth it? What is the return on investment? I always think you need to think about that. How much is it going to cost to go there? Do you need to stay in a hotel? Do you need to fly there? Is there really a chance for me to go there? How do you maximize that opportunity? What camps do you target? There's a lot of money grabs out there. I have a camp worksheet that helps you decipher if a camp is a good fit potentially for you to attend. I'll send that out tomorrow in a follow-up. You're welcome to look at it and have it, and it might help you when you're deciding, hey, do I need to go to this camp or not? Because you're going to continue to get camp invites, and you really need to prioritize them, or you could spend thousands upon thousands of dollars going to ID camps and not get anything from them. If they sound too good to be true, it probably is. Don't believe the hype. Understand that camps are money makers for coaches and coaching staffs. There's actually on most Division I staffs, there's a coach that's getting strictly paid as a salary by camps. And so the more people they have go to their camp, the better off that coach does. And even sometimes that coach calls players. And, if you send an email saying, hey, coach, is this, I'm trying to find out if that invite was real, that coach might actually even get back to you. And it's still kind of shady sometimes. Beware of third-party camps that are scams too. Sometimes those sound too good to be true. All these coaches are going to be there, and that's not always the case. Exact camps and there's a few others that I have not seen players recruiting from. They go to them, they sound good, everything goes good at those types of camps. But at the end of the day, there was really no recruiting done. And even college coaches aren't always being truthful about their camps. They're saying, hey, come to our camp. This is where you're going to be seen. And they're not even recruiting anybody for next year. Their roster's full, but they're still having a camp because they need to pay their assistant coaches or themselves. So just understand that a little bit. Showcases, not all events are good. Not all showcases are created equal. I see a lot of college showcases out there where there's very few college coaches. The reality is there are so many showcases now. It's hard for coaches to attend, and to be honest, a lot of coaches can recruit from their computer on the transfer portal. And then there's conflicting dates with seasons and other events. There's different levels of play. Their coaches have budgets, so they might only spend their budget to go to certain events each year. There's a ton of different reasons, but it's just oversaturated market, to be totally honest. And so not all of them are great. Some are, some aren't. One of the things I do with people I work with is I tell them straight up. They'll say, Dan, should I go to this camp? And I'm like, I'll tell them based on X, Y, Z, and then after we've done the camp worksheet, that that could be a good one for you based on this. And I've had players that have gotten picked up at camps, but they've had, reasons to go to those camps beforehand. That being said, I'll tell them if I think it's a scam or I think it's not worth it. Same with showcases and those types of things. Video, I think the importance, it's important to have great highlight video that shows your top stuff, and evolving video. What I mean by that is maybe videos after each season, depending on what your age is. If you play multiple positions, video of you playing different positions and not all just meshed into one because it gets a little confusing. So we can see, if you're a defender on one team and you're a forward on another, that might be something you want to be able to show both things, or maybe it's from your high school and your club because you do different things with those teams. You got to be able to circle yourself and show who you are in the video. I also think having a really good full game video is important, because if they like your video and they want to move forward with you. Maybe they want to see your mistakes, right? They want to see how you play in a full game. So if you have a good full game video, which should be accessible for most people these days, that is something I would suggest. Um, and sometimes you can get recruited straight on video. I've had it happen plenty of times. So what should you be doing? Everyone's timeline is different. You should be casting a wide net, sending emails to coaches from a wide variety of levels. Email coaches before events, before your high school season with, hey, here's my schedule, coach, or I'm going to be in your area. I'd love you to come watch me play. And, or if you have something important to tell them, like a new highlight video. One email is not enough. You're gonna get a lot of silence. So I think multiple emails, 3 or 4 times over the course of a couple months, telling coaches who you are to see if you get responses, right? Again, understand the difference between a camp invites and being recruited. This is one I love to talk about. I think social media in recruiting is a waste of time. I've never seen a player get recruited from their Instagram posts or their videos online. I just coaches don't go there. Even just posting thank yous to, hey, I went to your camp. Thanks, coach. And it gets liked by the coach. They're just trying to brand their camps and their opportunities. I would not put any credibility into recruiting from social media. Just isn't happening. So if you really want time, you got to get in front of coaches. You got to find a way to do that. Respond to any coaches that show interest. Don't be too good for anyone, right? A lot of times coaches move. A lot of times coaches move up. They get a new job, or assistant coach gets the head job. Maybe that coach at one school that you weren't all that excited about gets a job somewhere else. Happens on the daily. We want to make sure we're staying in front of those people. Plus, coaches know coaches, and they recommend people, or they say, hey, this player might be good for you. It does happen. Coaches do care about each other, and they can be great opportunities there. So I'll open it up to questions, but again, Top Student Athlete Recruiting, it's a soccer only recruiting agency that I run, right? I help you get more exposure. I help connect people to the right fit colleges and talk to college coaches on their behalf. I help save a lot of money on the cost of camps, like I told you, but also on college, and finding, a lot more scholarship money and better opportunities, and really facilitate the process from start to finish to help reduce stress. Help save parent-teenager relationships. If there are questions, you want me to evaluate your recruiting or more help, send me an email. My email's right here, topstudentathleterecruiting@gmail.com, or call me, text me. My phone number is right here. I'm happy to answer questions. When you do meet with me, it's no pressure, I promise. There's no pressure to work with me. I'll tell you more about the process. I'll look at your situation individually. And then, I'll also, tell you more about what I do, but at the same token, more about what you can be doing to help yourself. So if there are questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes. I appreciate you guys all showing up. And hope I answered the one question that I saw so far. It sounds like I did, but, I'm happy to answer more. Thank you and have a great night. A couple questions that popped up. First, what's the best way to tell college coaches to watch your games at a college showcase? Send them an email with your schedule. Hey, coach, I'm playing at the showcase this weekend. I'd say somewhere between 5 and 10 days before the showcase. You don't want to do it too early and it gets lost in the shuffle. You don't want to be too late. Um, so that is important. But hey, coach, on Saturday on field three at 8 a.m. I play. Here's my schedule. I wear number 33. I wear, blue cleats, something identifying. My team colors are this. Let them know those things so they can come watch you play, and they know who they're looking for pretty quickly. All right, that's important too, right? Make sure your numbers are match up and stuff like that. But and then send a follow up. Hey, coach, did you see me play? That's certainly something you can do. So I think that's helpful. Is the division designation per sport for common for all sports? Yes. If you're Division One, except for a few sports like hockey, if you're Division One, you're classified as Division One for all sports. There's a few schools that have a unique situation. The only one in soccer that I can think about is Colorado College has a Division One women's soccer, and then the Division Three and everything else except for men's hockey. But they're all holdovers from a long, long time ago, and they were grandfathered into that situation. But 99% of schools are Division One across the board, Division Two across the board, Division Three across the board, all sports, depending on what they are. Like I said, there's a few unique situations especially with hockey because there isn't Division Two hockey, so they're either Division One or Division Three. So, like St. Cloud State in Minnesota, I just had a player commit there. They have Division One hockey, but they're Division Two and everything else. So, great questions. All right, well, thanks for joining me. If there's anything else, I'll stay on it for another minute or two. Um, or you can email me directly, send me a text, call me. But best of luck with things. I'm happy to help anybody who's interested in learning more. And have a great start to your week. When you start, say, cast a wide net, are you just starting? How much is enough? I like to start people I work with about 30 schools. Um, you don't know how many are going to get back to you. I think you maybe make it a third return rate, right? So if you reach out to, you know, 10 Division One, 10 Division Two, 10 Division Three, maybe a couple NAIA, junior college, depending on what you're looking for. I try to balance it out amongst those levels. And I might know the player I'm working with particular is really, really, top level. Maybe they're Division One level. Maybe will stay on the Division One track, more than not. But we might still open it up to a couple other schools. But for the most part, we start, pretty wide. Um, and schools that are close, right? Top level Division Three isn't that far off of mid level Division One. It's really not. So casting a wide net, I think, is important. And I'd say 25, 30 schools. I mean, I know people who reach out to 100 schools. That's a lot of work because you got to, you're sending emails and you want to make sure they're, personalized and things like that. But I think 30 is a good start. Yeah. Then once you start getting interest from certain schools, you start, let's say you only get Division Two and Division Three interest back from coaches. Well, maybe that's your target area, right? Like maybe that's an area you need to focus on and find some more schools in those divisions. You can still stretch it and see if there's some Division One options. All right. But if you're getting schools, interest from some levels, maybe those are the levels we need to be focusing on. Sometimes the proof is in the pudding, right? It's very telling what schools, the types of schools that are reaching out to you is probably the level of play you should be at, give or take, because there's still some stretch, right, on either side of things. But All right. Well, thanks again. Have a great night. Hope to talk to some of you soon. Bye.